Why does this keep happening to the Cincinnati Bengals? What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Jacob Daniel, back at it again here at the Speed Kills podcast. And if you are a Bengals fan just like me, then you already know that Jonah Williams had surgery on his shoulder and is likely to miss the entire 2019 season. There's been some reports saying that the recovery time could end in late October, early November, but there's no sense in rushing a new offensive lineman back, especially a first-round pick, just because he wouldn't know much of the offense at all, wouldn't know what it was like to play in an NFL game. So you kind of just have to use this entire 2019 season as a redshirt season. And I say, why does this keep happening to the Bengals? Is because a lot of their first round picks in the past have not played almost at all in their rookie season. And I say that meaning their first round picks. From 2016 to 2019, the only first round Bengals pick that played significant amount of snaps was Billy Price with 558 snaps. That's not even a full season. I know that Billy Price got hurt. I think it was around game 10 or 11 last year. William Jackson in 2016 had 0 snaps. John Ross in 2017 played 17 snaps. I already said Billy Price played 558 snaps. And then now in the 2019 NFL season, Jonah Williams will play 0 snaps for the Cincinnati Bengals. And if we want to go back even further, in 2014, Darqueze Dennard, the Bengals first round pick, only played around 62 snaps. Cedric Ogbuehi in 2015 played 65 snaps. So really, in the past, Bengals first round picks don't play in the rookie season a lot of the time due to injury, and it sucks really bad that this keeps happening to the Bengals. It's really just bad luck. I wasn't able to release a video talking about the injury. Today, I'm going to talk about the effects of the Jonah Williams injury to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think it has 2 effects. I think it has one effect to the offensive line, obviously, and then the second effect is to this year's draft class. And I say this year's draft class, I'll go on to talk about that one later, but the first immediate impact that it has is obviously the O-line. He was going to be a day one starter for the Bengals at left tackle, guarding Andy Dalton's blind spot. This weakens the offensive line a ton. Having a first-round talent, the 11th overall pick in the draft, get hurt and not being able to play, that just sucks immensely for the Bengals, and it weakens an already weak unit in the NFL. Offensive line is not a strength for the Cincinnati Bengals, as we've seen in the past. They have a weak offensive line already. That's why they addressed it in the draft, and not seeing him play, and he would have been a day one starter, just really sucks. It's less flexibility across the whole offensive line. Cordy Glenn was going to slide into left tackle or left guard or right guard. I'm not sure which one. He was going to slide into a guard position, and then Jonah Williams was going to play left tackle, where Cordy Glenn played some of the season last year. If Bobby Hart doesn't play well at right tackle, then they could have just moved Jonah Williams over to right tackle and had Cordy Glenn slide out to left tackle. Then the bookends would have been 2 great players in Cordy Glenn and Jonah Williams, but now they don't really have that option. Jonah Williams could play all 5 positions across the offensive line. Center, if they needed him, that would probably be his last position. He'd be the best at, but he could play all 5 positions. So if they needed him to shift around, he could. So even if, one of the offensive linemen sucked and they wanted to move Jonah Williams around, then they could. Or even move Cordy Glenn or Alex Redmond, for example, even though he's suspended. Or Clint Bowling, Trey Hopkins around to one of the guard spots, or John Miller to a different guard spot, and shift around the Bengals offensive line. Now they can't really do that. They don't have as much flexibility. They still can do it, but obviously you're shifting around not as good players on the offensive line. And while I'm on the offensive line, the depth chart looks like this. At left tackle, Cordy Glenn. At left guard, either Clint Bowling or John Jerry. John Jerry was a free agent that we signed. At center, Billy Price. He will start almost for sure. At right guard, John Miller. They paid him a lot of money from Buffalo, and he's a great addition to the offensive line. And at right tackle, Bobby Hart, who they signed for a lot of money, and I don't think it was very, very much worth it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the offensive line plays out, especially without the 11th overall pick and one that they invested a lot of draft capital in, to not see him play in his rookie year. The second way it affects the team, in my opinion, is this year's draft class. Now, just going through the draft class real fast, the draft went like this. Round 1, Jonah Williams, Drew Sample, Jermaine Pratt, Ryan Finley, Rennell Wren, Michael Jordan, Travion Williams, Deshaun Davis, Rodney Anderson, and rounding out the Bengals draft was Jordan Brown. The day one starters from this draft were going to be Jonah Williams and Jermaine Pratt. And now that they don't have Jonah Williams, the only person that has day one starter potential, and I think he's going to start from day one, is Jermaine Pratt, unless we have a complete surprise from one of the later round picks. But in past drafts, especially when William Jackson wasn't able to play, John Ross wasn't able to play, Billy Price kind of disappointed in his rookie year, there have been other players in those drafts that have picked up the slack from that draft. For example, in 2017, when John Ross played only 17 snaps, Joe Mixon picked up the slack from the second round, and Carl Lawson, who was drafted in the 4th round out of Auburn, picked up that draft class into being a decent draft class. In 2016, when William Jackson III wasn't able to play a single snap, we still had Tyler Boyd in the second round. And in 2019, like I said, when Billy Price kind of disappointed, we still could focus on how good Jesse Bates was. And in the 2019 draft, I don't really see anyone besides Jermaine Pratt impressing. I mean, Drew Sample, the second round tight end, who I think we kind of reached for, he's still behind Tyler Eifert and CJ Uzomah. And that's basically the rest of the field, really. Ryan Finley, probably going to be a career backup. Rennell Wren is behind, Geno Atkins and different people around the defensive line. Michael Jordan has been struggling in OTAs and certain things like that. Trayvon Williams and Rodney Anderson, I talked about how they have a lot of potential, which they do. They have a lot of potential, but they're still behind Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard, two really good running backs in the league. I don't know much about Jordan Brown or Deshaun Davis, so I'm not going to try to say anything about them. This whole draft doesn't really have any day one starters, like I said, besides Jermaine Pratt, who's going to have immediate impact. Immediate impact is really important nowadays in the NFL. You want your first round pick to have immediate impact and to be really good from day one. And it just sucks that we don't get to see that really from this draft besides Jermaine Pratt, unless, like I said, one of the later round picks surprises. So that's why I think it affects this draft class, because this draft class, I think we found a lot of value, but not a lot of immediate value. And I think that Jonah Williams would have helped this draft a lot to see him play in day one. And it really hurts the Bengals that obviously that he's not going to play day one. So that's what I think about Jonah Williams and the injury and the impact that it has on the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, he was going to be a really good player, I think, for this year, but him being injured really sucks. Really sucks for Bengals fans. Really sucks for the Bengals organization that your first round pick won't play a single snap this entire year. You always got to look in the future. 2020, Jonah Williams' first year in the league. Hopefully we'll see a lot of promise from him, and we just keep moving on as Bengals fans. But that is all I have for you today here on the Speed Coast Podcast. Make sure to stay tuned for more videos on the Cincinnati Bengals and many more topics. I always try to provide quality content for you guys, so make sure to stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for the next video.